Hey guys, Jay here with Word of Advice TV, and today I will be replacing my thermostat. So I thought I would film the process, and while I'm at it, try to explain as much frequently asked thermostat questions as I can. So I'll be replacing my programmable Honeywell thermostat with the Nest Learning Thermostat. Now, there's two reasons why I picked the Nest. The first reason is simply because it's really slick. It just looks really nice. The second reason is because quite a few homeowners have troubles with the Nest thermostat. It's a nice thermostat, but especially the earlier generations, they had a lot of bugs. So I'm going to install this in my own house, and if there's any problems that come up, I can address them along the way, and I can become a Nest expert by dealing with it myself every day. So let's begin. So the first thing you want to do is turn off the power. So either at your furnace or air handler, turn the power switch off, or if you don't have a switch there, you can turn the circuit breaker off to your furnace or the air handler. Next thing you want to do is take your thermostat, the old thermostat, off the wall. Most of them will just come right off if you pull on them from the bottom or from the top. Mine, I just pull it from the bottom and it snaps off like that, and then you just wiggle it and it comes off. Some thermostats will have screws that you have to take out. Some of them you have to pop off from the top. Just look around it and try to figure out how yours comes off. Most likely you'll be able to just pull it right off. This is called the face and this is called the base. So you pull the face of it off of the base, and right here is where we have all of our wiring. The next thing you want to do is take all of the wires off. And before you do that though, make sure you take a picture of the wires so that you remember where they go. But even though the picture method usually works, sometimes it's kind of a flawed method, because if the wires are faded out, if the colors are faded out, or if for some reason you have all of the wires the same color, like they're all brown or they're all white, it's not going to help taking a picture, because you're not going to know which wire goes where after you pull them off. So before you pull the wires off, most new thermostats will also come with labels that look like this, with all the different terminals marked on them. And before I start pulling my wires off, I just want to quickly go over what all of them mean. So all my terminals are up on here, but I'll just explain them from here. Y is going to be your cooling or the air conditioning. And notice how there's Y1 and Y2. That just simply means you might have a two-stage air conditioner. So this would be stage 1 and this would be stage 2, or low stage and high stage. Most houses will not have Y2 wired up or W2. I very rarely see a thermostat that has Y2 and W2 actually wired up. But if your thermostat, once you take it off the wall, does have those wires in there, just make sure that you take them out from W2 and put them on W2 on the new thermostat as well. So anyways, Y is our cooling, G is our fan, our blower fan in the air handler or the furnace. G2 and G3 can be used as spare terminals or different fan speeds. OB is for heat pumps, if you have a heat pump. Then you have RC, which is power. R always stands for power, 24 volts. The C stands for cooling, so this would be power for cooling. W is heat, or the furnace, electric or gas, whatever you have, propane. So W is for heating, W2 is stage 2, and C is for 24 volt common. This is the common wire. RH is power to heating. So that's all we'll need to know. All of these are kind of miscellaneous. So what you want to do is take these little tabs off. So we got our Y1. Locate where our Y wire is. And my Y wire is right here. A lot of times they will be color coded, so Y will be yellow. So I want to put this label on here. And this method is a lot more certain than just taking a picture. You might as well just label them if they give you the labels. We'll take our next label, which is G. Put it on our G wire, which is green. W will be white. C, which is common, is going to be blue. And R, which is red, is going to be red right here. And I just want to point out this little jumper right here. This little wire between R and RC. It's probably going to be hard to see in camera, but there's a little wire that goes from R to RC. You want to make sure that your new thermostat, if you're replacing it with another just basic digital thermostat, make sure that the new thermostat also has a jumper between R and RC, or perhaps it'll be RH and RC. So make sure that jumper is on the new one as well, otherwise either your heating or your cooling will not work. Okay, so we have all our labels on, and now we can go ahead and loosen up the screws that hold all these wires and take all those wires out. The Nest thermostat comes with a cool little screwdriver like this with a flippable bit from Phillips to a flathead, which is pretty convenient. Let's go ahead and loosen up all these wires. And take them out. And as you can see, the little tabs, the labeling tabs, are really weak. They don't stick very well. They just come right off, it seems like. Which is okay, because mine is color-coded anyway. But I really wish they made them stick a little better than that. They just come right off. Or maybe my thermostat was just a little dusty around here, and some dust got in there, that's why they're not sticking. Okay, so we got all our wires out. Almost. And before you let go of the wires, what I like to do is just spread them all out. Like this. Because you see that hole in the back? Sometimes that hole is bigger, and this wire will try to sneak right back into there. See how mine just drops down? Or it did the first time. If your wires drop down into the wall, well, of course, that's a bad day. Then you have to cut out a big hole and try to fish those wires out. Or if they drop a long way down, then that's really a bad day. You have to cut a lot of wall. So, I got my wires out. And the next thing you want to do is take the base off. Before I loosen the screws and take the base off, the first thing I like to do is just to take a little utility knife, or if you have a cool knife like mine, the Kershaw Blur. Just go ahead and cut the paint all the way around the thermostat base. And that way when you're pulling the base off, it's not going to peel a layer of paint off as well, making you have to do some more painting. There's typically 2 or 3 screws holding the thermostat base to the wall. Let's go ahead and remove those screws. And now we can take our base off. So once again, spread those wires out. Because as you can see, my hole is actually a lot bigger than it looked like. That way, it'll get trapped like that and my wire won't fall in. Many times when I replace a thermostat, the new thermostat is not big enough to cover this spot left behind by the old one. So people do end up having to do a little bit of a paint job. The cool thing about the Nest is that it comes with a little trim plate that you can put down before the thermostat, and that'll cover everything up. Which I think is actually a pretty neat idea, and I will use this trim plate that they provided. And the Nest kit also comes with 2 long screws and 4 short screws. So for the trim plate, I'll be using the long screws. If you want, you can also put an anchor in before you put the screws in. But in my case, I think I'll get away without using anchors. As long as I don't over tighten the screws, it should be fine. And before you fully tighten down the screws, you could put a level on the trim plate and make sure that you're level before proceeding. There you go. Now I can go ahead and tighten it down. And to avoid over tightening, I like to finish it off by hand, not with a drill. That way you can feel it. You just want it just a little bit snug. It doesn't have to be super tight. That's good enough. And one more thing I wanted to point out, I should have talked about this earlier, but since I remembered now, this hole that's behind the plate, if you have a really big hole, mine is borderline, that actually is kind of big, But if you have a big hole, you do want to seal it up with something, maybe some foam or even just tape it, or perhaps put some silicone in there. But you want most of that hole covered up, because I have come across problems where the thermostat was acting a little bit erratic. The temperatures would bounce around, and that I later found out was caused because there was a little draft inside of the wall, and that was affecting the temperature sensor of the thermostat, which would cause the thermostat to think that it's either colder or hotter in the house than it really is. So you don't want a big hole behind your thermostat. And the Nest thermostat base actually comes with a built-in level, which I think is pretty neat. So you line that up with the top and bottom screw holes, make sure it's level, and then use a screwdriver or another screw to mark where the hole should be. I think I'm going to go ahead and just use the old screws that I took out from the old thermostat to tighten down this base as well. And just like last time, let's make sure we got it leveled before we completely tighten it down. There you go. And I'm going to tighten it down by hand to finish it off so I can feel it. There, that's about good. Because we're going into drywall, not a 2x4. So if you over tighten it, then you're probably going to have to take this apart and put some anchors in. And since I'm not going to be using anchors this time, I don't want to over tighten it. Next, we just need to hook up our wires. On the Nest thermostat, they actually make this really easy. If you have just a standard digital thermostat, you're probably going to have screws like this. So same thing, you put your wires in, you tighten down the screws. And by the way, when you're taking these wires out, if for some reason it's coming out really stiff and it's not, I mean, you can't yank it out even though the screw is completely loose, it's okay to just cut that wire and just strip a little piece of it off. There's usually more than enough slack behind the wall there. There's more than enough extra wire that you can use. So if you need to, you can cut a little piece of the wire off. So this one has the push-in connectors. So we just simply have to push our wires in, press the button, push our Y in, let go, and you should be able to tug on it a couple times, and it should be in there snug and not come back out. So that's our Y. R can go to RH, or the red wire can go to RH, and this would be the time to consult your picture on your phone if you don't remember where the wires go, or if you have the labels like me, then the labels tell you where they need to go. C will go to C. And one more thing I want to point out while I'm doing C, the Nest thermostat, it does need the common wire. One of the most common problems I see with the Nest thermostat, if somebody has a Nest thermostat and it's acting up on them, one of the most common problems is that the wire does not have a common wire. So my thermostat wire behind the wall, it has 5 wires. Sometimes there's only 4 wires or 3 wires. If you don't have an air conditioner, for example, you're not going to have anything hooked up to the Y. You're just going to have the furnace, which is going to be the W. But anyway, if you don't have a 5 wire, you only have a 4 wire, they sell these little adapters that are called, 4 to 5 wire adapter, and it basically turns your 4 wires into 5 wires. There's also an extra step involved. You have to install that little adapter downstairs at the furnace. And long story short, not just the Nest, but any thermostat, if your thermostat does not come with batteries, it should have a common wire going to it. So if there's no batteries on the thermostat, you have to have a common wire, otherwise it might not be working correctly. And if your thermostat does have batteries, then the C wire, or the common, is optional. You don't have to hook it up if you don't have it. So let's go ahead and hook the rest of these guys up. Push them in. W will go into W1. W and W1 are the same thing, by the way. Push that in. I'm going to push the rest of the slack or the extra wire back into the hole. So my thermostat will come on here neatly. And that is it. I got all my wires hooked up. And now I just need to put my Nest thermostat onto the base And installation is complete. And my thermostat is blank right now because I have the power off. And by the way, that's one more feature with thermostats that have batteries and thermostats that don't have batteries. Thermostats that don't have batteries, if the power is off, they go blank. If they have batteries, even if the power comes off, the thermostat will continue to be lit up. And since my Nest thermostat does not have batteries either, if my power is off at the furnace or the circuit breaker, the thermostat is blank as well. Okay, so my power is back on, and it might take it a minute or two for it to warm up and actually turn on, so just give it a minute if it's not turning on. So of course I want English. I press on the thermostat to select English, confirm your choice. And this is just the initial setup when you install the Nest for the first time. Internet connection. I'm actually probably not going to hook up my Nest to my Wi-Fi. I don't really want that feature. But if you do want to control your Nest thermostat from your phone, you will have to connect your thermostat to the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this step. Your location. North America. USA. Zip code. I think I'll just make up a zip code. I don't want to tell them my real zip code. Done. This is a single family house located in the hallway. Set the date and time. I do want to set the date. And Central Time. Done. Equipment. Are you a Nest Pro? Homeowner or Pro? Even though I'm a Pro, I'm just going to select Homeowner. It shows you what equipment is detected and where the wires are hooked up, which is a pretty cool feature as well. And you know how I was mentioning the jumper before? Between RC and RH, or R and RC? The Nest is actually internally jumpered between RH and RC. So you don't have to have a jumper in between those two. So that looks good. Your system, heating, cooling, and fan. That's all I have. Continue. I have a gas furnace. Forced air. Temperature. Should Nest begin by heating or cooling your home? I live in Minnesota. It's still cold, so we're still using our furnace. I'll select heating. Continue. I think I'll just leave it at 50. I'll leave cool on off for now. Done. System test. Continue. Continue. Nest app. We'll skip that because I'm not going to be hooking it up to my phone. And if you do want to hook it up to Wi-Fi, the manual that comes with the Nest, it'll walk you step by step how to do that. And that is it for the setup. And here you go. We got our Nest thermostat all set up. I set it to 74. It tells me that in about 30 minutes it'll get there. And I actually heard my furnace already come on, so it fires on pretty quick. Perfect. And I think I will leave my temperature at about 70 degrees. And that is how you install a thermostat. Well guys, I hope you found this video useful and your thermostat installs in the future will go a lot smoother and a lot of your questions were answered. If you're also an HVAC technician and you have some other further tips and suggestions of thermostat installation that I did not cover, please let us know in the comments below what that is, or if you have any other questions about thermostat installation. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to mash that like button on the way out, and I'll see you next time. And if you're still here and not in the comment section below, I'm just curious. You're probably on quarantine, just like me, because of the coronavirus. So during this downtime, I've been using my extra time to learn some new skills, to learn some new things. I opened up a brokerage account with Ameritrade. I'm going to learn stocks and how to invest and how to do options trading and all of that. That's pretty interesting. I also started learning Spanish because why not? And I also learned a useless skill of walking upside down just because. So that's what I've been up to lately, and I'm really curious, what are you up to if you're also in quarantine and you have more downtime? What new things are you learning, or what new skills are you learning? Maybe it's something interesting and I'll probably take that on as well. Please let us know in the comments below.
You say I make you nervous, a tragedy, I'm a beautiful disaster, a reckoning. You wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change.